Alrighty, everyone, it is Friday, which means it is time for News of the Week for January 24th, 2025. And this is the first time, probably all year, where I've had a Friday where I don't have anything going on after, where I can just sit down, write the notes, not have to be worried about missing anything, and actually edit this video calmly without anything going on. First off, do want to say that there is a Watch with Nordic stream tonight when you're watching this video. The Philadelphia Flyers against the New York Islanders. So that'll be a fun stream. So I thought I'd mention that off rip. But let's get into your news around the league this past week. Starting off with a minor trade, another super minor trade here. The San Jose Sharks have acquired forward Pavel Regenda, who is on a 1-year, $775K deal. In exchange, the Anaheim Ducks have acquired forward Justin Bailey, who is on a 1-year, $775K deal, and that's the trade. Regenda had 16 points in 36 games played in the AHL, and Bailey had 14 points in 33 games played in the AHL. So just a minor league swap, two forwards who have been putting up respectable numbers for their respective teams. Again, nothing huge, just more or less a minor trade. That's really all that was interesting of this past week, besides the signing that happened today, I guess. It's been a very slow week when it comes to, transactions. We have seen, suspensions. There's a lot of injuries to talk about, but in terms of overall, signings and trades, it's been very slow. But today, Tony DeAngelo signed a 1-year, $775K deal with the New York Islanders. He will be under contract with them for the rest of this season. DeAngelo, as part of being playing in Russia for a lot of this past year, has to go through waivers to be activated, so he is on waivers as of right now. It'd be funny if a team just went out and was taking him from you. Nope, you can't have him. It'd be a little bit funny, but I don't think that happens. DeAngelo, there have been a lot of criticism on social media for a guy that cannot play defense. However, DeAngelo does have an offensive side to his game, and that is the main reason why, if we're being completely blunt, that he is getting signed to this deal. It actually makes sense for the Islanders. I know there's a lot of hate around DeAngelo, and there's a lot of hate on this signing, but it actually makes a lot of sense. DeAngelo is a good offensive defender, and the Islanders don't have guys like that. Noah Dobson was just out for a week, or is out for at least 4 to 6 weeks. So he's going to be out for a little bit here. And the Islanders outside of him do not have any offensive defensemen. I think their most offensive guy after that is Dennis Cholowski or Scott Mayfield. It is a very short list. And I think DeAngelo comes in there as a good offensive chip option there for the New York Islanders. So I don't hate it from that perspective, but again, there are people who won't like it because it's Tony DeAngelo and he has a history, and just people don't like the guy. It's plain and simple as that. Outside of that, again, I said there really isn't anything that much going on. Walker Duhair was placed on waivers by the Calgary Flames this past week, was claimed by the San Jose Sharks. Duhair, not a bad player, will fit in well as a good bottom six guy for the San Jose Sharks. There actually was a couple of suspensions. There is a video on the channel talking about these, but Tyler Myers and Connor McDavid were both suspended for 3 games due to an illegal check. I will put the video in the card here that you guys can go watch. Again, I gotta say, I feel for me, I have my opinion in that video where I didn't think McDavid should have been as long as Myers, and part of me still stands by that, but at the end of the day, it was still an illegal check to the head, regardless of the context, but I do really think that Garland should have likely been suspended rather than McDavid, or Garland should have gotten a penalty on that play. He shouldn't have been suspended. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to say that, but yeah, those were the 2 suspensions that happened this past week. Again, I don't need to go into them because there's already a video on the channel. The injuries, though, it was a big, bad week when it came to injuries. We'll start off in New Jersey, where Jacob Markstrom is going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks with an MCL sprain. He will miss the Four Nations tournament. So first off, good news for the Devils. in a sense that we thought it was going to be worse. If you guys saw the play, it looked like it was going to be a lot worse than just 4 to 6 weeks. So Markstrom will be back at the beginning of March, end of February. So that's a good sign there, at least for the Devils. Again, it's not good that he's hurt, but it could have been a lot worse. It's bad news for Sweden because that means they will need to find another goalie to be their third string, and they have Sam Ersson from the Flyers will be coming and playing for the team. Again, people had outrage about this today when this was announced. I also want to say, like, he's the third string. It's not like he's going to come in and be the starter right away. Like, no, he has Ullmark and Gustafsson over him. So he's not going to play at all. Like, unless if Ullmark doesn't come back from this injury, then we might see Ersson play a game as the backup for Sweden. But again, like, I think we'll be okay. I think Sweden would be fine. But again, going back to Markstrom, not ideal there whatsoever. Hopefully he is back by the time that it's projected him to be. But again, the Devils have been struggling recently, so it doesn't really help with that either. But yeah, we'll have to see where that goes from there with the Markstrom injury. William Carrier, I've been updating you guys a lot over the last couple of months about Carrier. He is going to be out the next few months, even longer, with a lower body injury. Not ideal there whatsoever. Carrier was brought in on a big contract by the Carolina Hurricanes. It's a more longer-term deal, but definitely not ideal there. He hasn't really played that much this season either, so it's not a great look for the Hurricanes when you look in terms of that. But yeah, hopefully Carrier will be back soon. And then Brock McGinn is going to be out for the next 7 to 9 months with an ACL tear. So Brock McGinn there, more or less a middle bottom six forward there for Anaheim. It's going to be a loss for sure, but I don't know. Seeing how he's going to be out for that long, like he's out for the season. He's out for at least this season. He's going to be out until 9 months, 7 to 9 months from now is like July, August. So he may be prepped and back for the season in 25-26. But again, it's not a great look for his overall career trajectory. And then the other piece of news that was popped up is that William Karlsson may not even participate in the Four Nations tournament because of a lingering injury. Not ideal there whatsoever either. Again, Karlsson, a good first, second line center. He's probably a second line center playing on Sweden, but still a very good center there nonetheless for that team. And losing him is not good. It is not a good look there whatsoever. So hopefully we can see, maybe we'll see another center that maybe was snubbed get picked up. Like William Eklund was a guy that I thought about. He's not a center, but he could slot in there. And again, just not ideal there whatsoever. Again, it's not confirmed that he won't be there, but it's possible that he may miss. So Sweden is going to take another procedure to see who they can bring in replacement for him as a possibility. But again, not ideal there whatsoever. A bad week for Team Sweden and the Four Nations team there. And that's it for injuries. Again, I got through the first half of the page there really quickly. The IIHF will reconsider readmission of Russia and Belarus for the 2025-26 events in early February. So we'll find out about this probably next week, actually, for the News of the Week video. Personally, for me, I have my own opinions about it. Again, I think that, these kids don't really have an impact over the war and what's going on over there, and I think they should be playing. Again, that's my opinion. I don't want to get into it. I'm not getting my hopes up either, though, because we had this opportunity last year, and they said no, and I just don't think that it's going to happen. My expectations are not that high, but maybe I'll be surprised. We'll have to see next week. Again, it may be next week or the following week, depending on what the day the news video falls on. I think it's probably going to be the following week, but regardless, yeah, it's something that definitely needs to be brought up there for sure. Next up, the Utah Yeti trademark has been refused due to a likelihood of confusion. This is a little bit of an interesting one that I saw. Again, we've heard over the last couple of months that the Utah Yeti was likely going to be their name. And it seems like there has been a confusion with the hockey team itself and the cups, the Yeti cups that are sold. And that's a pretty big company there as well. All the people have those. A lot of people have those, actually. And I think that it's interesting in a sense because the Utah team has a lot of time to put together a case for that to get accepted. I think it probably does get accepted. But again, I feel like there's some people who do look at that and are like, yeah, I see the Yeti branding and they might not be able to get it. So we'll have to see, but I feel like they have plenty of time to figure that out. I'm not really worried about it, particularly as a Utah fan, former Coyotes fan, by the way. I have to mention that a lot when I say that claim. But yeah, I think that they have a lot of time to really figure that out, so I'm not really worried just yet. And then one more piece here before we get into the rumor mill. The Belleville Senators have signed Sam Gagner to a PTO. That was interesting to see. Gagner has been playing overseas so far this past year. He was actually the captain of the Spengler Cup for Canada, which is another tournament that goes on out there overseas, and has over 1,000 NHL games of experience. I think he was with the Oilers last year. I'm pretty sure, or it was the Jets. I think it was the Oilers, though. And I think that he brings experience to Belleville, and I think it'll be a decent signing for them if he actually does end up making the team out of the tryout. So it'd be interesting to see. But yeah, Gagner, longtime NHLer, is trying to break his way back in there yet again. But again, we'll have to see where that goes from there. Let's move into the rumor mill now. The rumor mill is just rumors around the NHL that I pick up. Some of it's kind of actually news itself. Some of it's actually like just rumors. Again, I have all my sources here, so let's get into the rumor mill here today. There's actually a lot of stuff because, again, news was not really that big, so I put in a few more than I usually would. Jonathan Toews' comeback may not be until 2025-26 per Pierre LeBrun. I'm not surprised by that at the slightest. To be honest with you, it's a little bit weird to bring in a player who hasn't played in over 2 years. It'll be 3 years at the end of this season, midway through a season. Like, it just doesn't make sense for a contender at the very least to really do it. Again, with John Klingberg, like, again, it's different because Klingberg actually played last year. He was dealing with injuries, and he is, relatively, like, he's played relatively recently as per Toews. He hasn't played since 2023. And actually, it will be 2 years ago. I'm not good at math. But yeah, I think that it's a little bit different for a guy like Klingberg than a guy like Toews for sure, even though I think Toews is probably better than Klingberg overall. But again, it makes a lot of sense to me there, and I think that, I kind of saw that coming when I heard that Toews was going to make an NHL return. The Boston Bruins are a dark horse for JT Miller, per Frank Saravelli. Again, you guys thought I was going to get through a whole video without Miller? Nope. I can't do it. Not until he's traded. For Miller, like with the Bruins, we talked about it on the podcast. I just wonder, like, what are you going to give up? You're going to have to give up, like, playing future assets in a year where Boston really shouldn't. Like, they might not make the playoffs this year. Like, they are battling in that wild card race. They're winning enough games to where they're getting in. Like, they can get in. But even if they do get in, their first round exit is the best. So it's one of those instances where, like, I don't really know, like, what are you going to give up exactly to get a guy like Miller? And I've also heard, too, I don't have this in here, but the Canucks are low-key getting lowballed by a couple of teams because they know they're in a rough situation. So I don't know. I could see it happening. It's Boston. I'm not putting it out of the question. I've seen Boston do crazier things. But again, I just don't really know what you would give up necessarily going the other way for a guy like JT Miller. So just a little bit of a head scratcher there. I get it, but at the same time, I don't think it really happens. Next up, this was a thing that really has been circling around a lot recently. The NHL has been informed to possibly prepare for Gary Bettman's retirement in the next couple of years. Now, I don't know when necessarily he would be retired. Like, they didn't give a specific date. One of the owners done at the very least that revealed this. Like, it could happen at the end of next season. It could happen at the end of the 2020s. So again, we really don't know. But again, I think it is very interesting there because there have been a lot of criticism of Gary Bettman, and it'd be real funny if a Canadian team never wins a Stanley Cup under Bettman's tenure, and then the year that he leaves and the new person comes in, a Canadian team wins the cup. That would be so funny. But again, I think that for me, we'll have to see. Like it's still super early. Like where I'm like, oh my god, like Bettman's actually retiring. But yeah, I feel like people actually do like they overlook the bad things that Gary Bettman's done. Like there have been a lot of things that I have not agreed with Bettman, but he's done a lot of good things. He expanded the NHL like nearly double. He's actually made the game a lot more popular than it once was, even though I feel like he could have done more. You know, he's made the game a lot of money over these last couple of years. There are some things that I really have not agreed with, like the punishments for teams involving draft circumvention and the sexual assault thing a couple of years ago. But again, I think that Bettman's done a lot of good things though. I think you got to give some credit where it's due. Again, people like to look at the bad rather than the good. But again, I feel like if you put any commissioner in Bettman's position and put anybody there, they've done a lot of good things, they've done a lot of bad things. But again, I think that seeing a new person come in wouldn't be a terrible idea because it is a new world. Bettman, I don't feel like is used to some of these things, but yeah, that's just me talking. We'll have to see where that goes from there, obviously. The Seattle Kraken will likely get a late first, early second for Yanni Gourde. Per Frank Saravelli, personally, if you get a first for Yanni Gourde at this stage, like I'm going to be blown away. I think, and Mike Bartner, I'll give a lot of credit to him. He said this very well. Like, I feel like if you traded a first for Yanni Gourde, you should be fired, at least at this stage. Like, I know he is a previous 50-point guy. Like, he's had some really good years prior to coming to the Kraken, but since he's come to Seattle, it just hasn't worked. It just hasn't worked, and I think if you get a first for him, first off, that might save Ron Francis's job. Like, Francis's job is on the line right now, in my opinion. I think if you get a first for Gourde, that might save your job. But yeah, I just don't know how, I could really see a team giving up that much, to be honest with you. The Columbus Blue Jackets are not interested in moving their pending free agents, at least as of right now, per Elliot Friedman. Now, that will probably involve guys like Matthew Olivier, Ivan Provorov, etc. But again, this depends if they're in a playoff spot. Like, I think if, like, right now the Jackets are rolling. Like, they are really playing well. I think they're in a wild card spot or just outside of one. I think if they are in a wild card spot, like a week before the trade deadline, they hold on to a lot of those guys. Maybe if you get like a first for Ivan Provorov, you will pull the trigger. But I also think too, like, if you're in a playoff spot, why would you give up all this stuff? But again, I saw the last year with my Flyers, and I said, no, you sell anyways. And I think maybe Columbus goes down that road. But again, like, we'll see. They are in a very different spot than the Flyers are. Like, they have a better prospect pool than the Flyers did last season at the very least. So, yeah, I think that it makes a lot of sense. But again, it depends on what you get and who you're trading as well. Like, that's the other thing you got to look at there, too. And then last but not least, this might be the biggest one of them all, the Penguins. There was a source that was close to RG Media that said that Kyle Dubas is leaning towards a fire sale for the Penguins, per Marco D'Amico. This is interesting. Like, again, I think that a fire sale means you're trading away, like, Carlson, you're trading away Letang, you're trading away, like, a lot of those big-name players. Like, if you're doing a fire sale, your only untouchable should be Crosby and maybe Malkin. Everybody else, you move them. You try and get as much as you can for them. You try and get future assets. You try and move them. You get youth. You get young players. Like, I feel like they've made some moves. Like, Dubas has made some moves that have been good. Like the Tomasino trade. I like that one a lot. The Cody Glass one actually wasn't that terrible when you look in terms of it. Like, again, I think that you need to make more deals like that. And you also need to, at the same time, like, you need to trade away some of these big-name guys. Again, they're one of those teams where, like, they're still in the race. They will still come in within a wild card spot. You notice how I rolled my eyes there. But that's how they are. I think, though, you need to make a fire sale. Like, unless if you want to be mid for the next, like, 2 to 3 years, you need to fire sale now. And then, like, who knows? Maybe the Penguins get a high draft pick, and everybody will be mad at that, but at least the Penguins will move towards a better future with that. So, again, we'll have to see there, but that is your news of the week for January 24th, 2025. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Again, not a big week here for news whatsoever. The biggest piece of news is probably in the rumor mill, if we're being honest. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Apologies for the lack of videos this week. I've just been posting some shorts. It's been a very busy week for me with new semester in school and a lot of other things that have happened as well. But let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.